our Mendon Upton Regional School District school committee candidates a meeting tonight. And my name is Debbie Perro. I have lived in Mendon for 22 years. I actually don't recognize too many faces. I think it's like a new set of parents cycling through, but it's really great to see everybody here, and thank you to the Microsoft Teams people that are joining us tonight as well. So I've lived in town for 22 years. My kids have gone through the Mendon school system, though I did have one child graduate from Mount St. Charles in Rhode Island. I've participated in various different committees in town, and I've spent the last 2 terms, 6 years on the Mendon Cultural Council, and we do a lot of work with the school committees in that council, securing grants for them, as well as things for the library and the senior center. And I'm currently in my 2nd term on the board of registrars. So I've always been active in the schools since my kids were in kindergarten here. They're in their late 20s now, so it's been a while. But I've always liked the Mendon Upton School District very, very much. One thing I want to say about the candidates running tonight is everyone was invited. There's 5 candidates running for school committee, and 3 are not here tonight, which is unfortunate because I probably, like all of you tonight, and I can see the anticipating faces, I think there's probably a lot of questions. If you're like me, I can sense a turn in schools across America, even though I don't have school kids in the school district, I do pay attention. So I applaud the 2 candidates here for coming tonight, and I find it very unfortunate that the other 3 were unable to make it. Okay, so without further ado, what I'd like to do is just state the rules real quickly for those of you who maybe haven't attended a meeting before of this nature and how it kind of works. Okay, first and foremost, we want to be respectful to the 2 candidates that are here tonight, and actually to anybody and to each other, obviously. And I think that we'll have no problem doing that. Secondly, no attacking any candidate. Okay, let's hope we don't get to that point. Questions should be directed to all candidates, all Mendon candidates or all Upton candidates. So are you both from Upton? Upton, Mendon. Okay, perfect. So all questions are directed to all Mendon or Upton candidates. No monopolizing of time by candidates or participants. Moderator has the discretion to move on to a new participant. We'll try our best to allow you to conclude whatever issue you have or question you have for one of these candidates. But when we need to move on, because of time wise, we'll give you a heads up on that. And participants must raise your hands and wait to be called upon. When we do call upon, state your name and your address for the committee, because this is a public meeting. And that's how that is handled. Okay, good. Good. So we will have introductions with our 2 candidates here, 15 to 25 minutes or so. I'm not sure how long you have prepared yourself to speak.
So camera is off and we're on mute.
So each candidate will have, each candidate will have up to 5 minutes, but I think we can guarantee, we can grant them a little longer than that. That was stated if we had 5 candidates, which we have 2 tonight. So we'll do some introductions. We'll have a question and answer period. So again, raise your hand, state your name and your address, and then direct your question to the candidate. After that, we anticipate being allowed to break into small groups and meeting with the candidates and having a little personal one-on-one time. And I think that's great. to do that. So that's how the meeting will be run. Okay, everybody with me? So far, so good. The last thing I want to say before we jump into everything is that running for school board is very challenging. And it's a very exciting experience. I've helped many candidates run for various different offices, state, town, local level. And it really is a great experience. In a situation like this, to run for school committee is a very big investment in their time. And it's a super important job. So I applaud the 3 that aren't here as well as the 2 that are here. Just the fact that you guys have chosen to run for this really important position. I think all of us should applaud that because it's a tough job and it's extremely time consuming. So we thank you for that. Okay. I guess we will start with the introductions. So I think we'll start with you first.
Good evening, everyone. I'd first like to thank everyone who was in attendance, both physically and virtually. I appreciate your effort to be involved and stay informed for the sake of our children and find out who's actually running for school committee and what they stand for. I wanted to say thank you to Lisa and Brittany and Lonnie for putting this on, doing a district-wide meet the candidates. I think that's really important for all school committee candidates to get together and have a little discussion. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dara Landers. I'm originally from Holliston. I was fortunate enough to graduate from the Holliston Public School System. After high school, I got my bachelor's in business, and then I went on to get my bachelor's degree in nursing. I've been a nurse for the last 10 years. I like to consider myself a lifelong learner. I don't really like complacency, so naturally, as my children are matriculating into the school system, I'm inclined to get involved in their future. My oldest is in first grade at Clough. My middle is going to be in pre-K in the fall, and I have a 2-year-old daughter. My husband and I moved here to Mendon in 2018. We've had a wonderful experience here. We're really happy, so are our kids. My husband's very active in coaching Mendon Upton youth sports, and we're really growing to love our community here. So why am I running for school committee? For most of 2020 and 2021, I was a frustrated parent. I worked in the hospital during the pandemic. I had a newborn at the beginning of it. And like many of you can identify with, I felt like I wasn't being heard. After careful thought, I decided that I wanted to get involved. I wanted to run. I wanted to be a voice for my children, the district's parents. And I have a couple of personal goals that I just want to share with everyone for if I'm elected. I want to bring a fresh perspective to the committee. I want to provide elementary school representation, which there isn't any right now. I want to help develop policies that ensure students will thrive in their school environments. I want to ensure every dollar spent is directly linked to children's education and their growth. I want to foster a true working relationship and open lines of communications with our citizens. And I really want to encourage more community and parent involvement. I also want to just take a moment to thank the current school committee members. This job is not easy, especially during a pandemic, and I totally recognize that. It's an unpaid volunteer position. And just a reminder, past few years, some of those positions were run unopposed and some were just write-ins. So the people that are there now, they do care about our kids. And I'm not running because I think I can do a better job. I'm running because I care and I want to help.
Very good. Okay. I'm impressed with your nursing. I'm in that field.
Okay, my name is Joe Lindsay, and I'm a write-in candidate for the Upton position on the school board. I'm not born and raised in Massachusetts. I actually was born and raised in Chicago. Moved out to the New England area 2000. Met my wife to be, we moved down to Atlanta, in that county area, 2004, 2005. And wanted to be back here with her family. She is born and raised in Massachusetts, and family's a lifelong residents of Bellingham. So in 2018, well, they started in 17. It's when you move across country, it's not always easy. But in 2018, we finished up our move into the Upton area, and it's been a great place to live and a beautiful so it's a little bit of family background. Professionally, I am public high school graduate. I have very little college. I do have some college courses. I've taken some professional seminars for accreditation with what I do. Right now, I'm working for a company that is $8 billion, 25,000 people worldwide. It's a high school graduate. I've been able to maneuver my way to a pretty good career in that place, and pretty well respected by my peers, especially the directors are always, when they need help, Jim's phone rings. So that's a little bit. Growing up, always been well involved in, obviously, in my son. I've also coached baseball when I've had nobody, and I've umpired baseball. Talk about a tough job. Try umpiring. So, I've done that. I've led the Cub Scout troop for my son when it was his turn, and you know, I love kids. I love children. That's probably why I'm CBS. A lot of people that know the not all that about myself. So, you know, I always want to keep the students first. So I'm running for the school committee, and yeah, I want to repeat what Debbie and Dara have already said. These are not easy roles. These are tough positions. They can be very thankless, right? Because I promise you, no matter what you come up with, you're not going to make every single person happy. So you really got to work together to find the balance between all the stakeholders. And there's a lot of stakeholders. Teachers and administrators have their role. He has their role. The parents have a role, and the taxpayers have to say too, because in the end, we can't do anything. There's a lot of different stakeholders in this process. One of the things I would like to do is work to bring this all together so we can have a cohesive path for it. In more intricate detail, test scores would be one of my focuses. I know that's going to be a part of the debate. A good one for me because we're a house divided. I firmly believe the test scores, and my wife has taken the other position, so we get back and forth on that one all the time. So well versed. As far as the monies go, you know, the towns have had 5 overrides in the last 7 years. My stats are correct. I no longer these close. Not a big fan of the overrides. It shows a lack of being able to put your dollars in the right spot at the right time. In the same period of time where we've had 5 overrides between the 2 towns, we've had stagnant growth in the school. So the enrollment is staying the same, but the money just keeps shifting. Don't have all the answers for that. Right now, but that is where you look to get to the source of what we can do. Not gonna, and to build off that, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, I'm the answer man. I'm the solution guy. Look at me. I have the magic wand. We have a lot of challenges. You know, as good as everything is, and for as great as everybody does, there's always continuous improvement that can be done. And now with the divisiveness that's portrayed in most of the country, it makes our jobs a little bit more tougher. So, what I look to bring to the table is my work experience and bringing people together. Finding out the value of everything we do. You're going to hear me use that word a lot. Everything we decide on has a cost benefit value we have to put on to make sure that we're not outweighing the benefits with the costs. So you'll hear that from me. You'll hear balance. And when I say balance, it's because I know I'm not going to be everybody happy. I have to understand that going into it. But we have to do our best to make sure that we're listening to the parents, helping them with what they want, holding the people accountable on the other end too, not just the teachers, but the committee itself, and making sure that we're making the right steps forward in a cohesive direction that brings us to the future that everybody wants, the best schools for the lowest costs. Right. Is looking for anything different. So that's it. I appreciate your time, and again, thank you everybody for attendance. Again, forward to working with you guys all in the future. No matter how this thing goes out.
So,
Appreciate it.
I think some people are having trouble hearing, so.
Having trouble hearing?
Yeah, because the camera's stuck on this side, so.
So you want us to move forward?
Yeah, just a little.
Oh, just roll.
Yeah. Very good. How's you doing?
Something else starting. Maybe you'll speak up a little bit. Yeah, a little bit louder.
Okay, so I think everybody feels a consensus of what both of these two people had to say. So at this point, I think we'll open it up for questions, right? So again, just raise your hand, we'll call on you, state your name and your address and direct your question. So, yes, sir.
Patrick McEnany, 7 Warfield Road in Mendon. So Dara, you had highlighted some of the key issues in 20 and 21 that were hard on everybody. Thanks for all that work you've done in the healthcare industry. One of the things that certainly has borne out over that time frame is also the idea of a cancel culture that affects so much of our society and our school. And this was something that I didn't even think was even going to be an issue, but came up during the question session just a week or so ago, talking about our mascot, that being the Nipmuc Warrior. Certainly, you know, the Washington Redskins, with Redskins being a derogatory name, seems to be offhand, for sure, very belittling in its name, but a Nipmuc Warrior, in my opinion, if we end up getting rid of that as our mascot, actually does an absolute disservice to those that were before us. And we end up losing that remembrance. And my question is actually to the two of you, actually. Where do you see our mascot going to? And is there something that we could do as an alternative, not from a changing of the name, but rather of a, hey, let's, make our ancestors that were part of this area long ago that could survive in this world a hell of a lot better than any one of us today, be thankful that somebody is standing on their ground.
I can go first. So, I hadn't put much thought into that one, Patrick, until the other night when it came up, and, now I have thought about it, especially being a big sports guy, right? You see these mascots getting canceled. all over the place. And I agree with you 100%. I don't have the full history of our specific Nipmuc warrior, but I do understand that it was meant to be an honor and tribute, not meant to be offending to anybody in any way. I'd like to keep it the way it is, but if that becomes, you can't. The one thing I surely wouldn't do is get rid of it before we could figure out something different. I think we might have already did that in one of our schools in the district. So, you know, I like it. I like to keep it. I don't find it offensive at all. You know, that's just a single guy. I like those as being a tribute. I told you guys I'm from Chicago, so we have the Blackhawks and nobody's canceling them. So, yeah, we can move forward with these things in a sensible way and keep it. And if that fails, I think we really do ourselves a disservice by just getting rid of it and not being prepared to have another mascot, because that is the identity. That is the identity of the school. That's the identity of the kids. That's the identity of their teams. That's what creates the camaraderie with the students. So that's my thoughts.
I hear what you're saying. It is so easy to get caught up in this absolute culture war that we are in, and there's no doubt that we're in one right now. But I hear what you're saying. Are we being disrespectful to our history? Do we have permission to use that mascot? What's the history? We need to do a little research. I don't have any background in it at all. I would have to figure out do we have the permission? Like, and more so like, what is the problem? Why? Why do we want to get rid of our mascot? So finding out, why do we want to get rid of it? Do we have permission? We just have to do more research. So, I mean, that's where I stand on that.
Anybody else? Let's have some questions. Yes, sir.
Dean Morelli, 25 Hopedale Street, kind of tailing into this culture war. It's very apparent across the country that we're in a number of social issues and racial issues. And I was wondering who has the oversight or control of the curriculum if it would be implemented in our schools? Would it be the school committee, the administration, or other forces?
So the school,
If do you want me to go ahead and take?
keep going.
No, I
I didn't want to
just
cut
want, I
it
just
off.
want to,
It's fine, I'm new with this.
the two that are most prominent are obviously racial relations and gender identity, okay? And I'd just like to know who will be overseeing that, and will parents be notified of the curriculum before it's implemented if it does come to our town?
All right, so this is like a two-parter. So obviously, both of those are like completely polarizing issues.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people are gonna be reluctant to have this conversation. I understand that these curriculum questions are very important, and we as school committee members will have to work with the superintendent. I do think that parents should be notified. I think that I think we need to hold public forum, and we need to engage parents in the community and see what they want and how they're feeling. If parents are upset, we need to listen to them. We need to tailor curriculum based on that. I have a couple of notes here. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. I do want to use my seat on the committee to engage the public and the community and the parents. And I want to be a voice for the parents, and I want to hold public forum, and I want there to be surveys and voting. And I just don't want it to be these like lonely school committee meetings that nobody shows up to, because we don't ultimately get anything done if no one's involved.
So, yeah, you had a good point, Dean. Obviously, that's a question on everybody's mind across the country. you know, when you talk about, racism, it's a delicate topic for me. And I could tell you, I'm gonna give you a little bit of my personal experience. So a lot of these teachings, they, you gotta take the bad out and keep the good. One of the bad things is this automatic one side or the other, or could be a racist, but since you don't admit it, you're just a bigger racist, right? When I hear stuff like that, I get insulted. Half my family is of Mexican heritage, and I have Black people in my family. So when you look at me and tell me, you're a racist and there's nothing you can do about it, you're basically telling me personally that I hate the people I love. So it's tough for me to wrap my head around on a personal level. In a school, I still wholeheartedly believe that, we have to teach with everybody is created equal. I know we have to work on inclusion. We don't want anybody to feel left out. We don't want anybody to feel like they're, uninvolved. I really think a lot of that teaching starts at home. The parents, we as parents and the parent of a child in the school district, we have the responsibility for that also, not just to be laid on to the schools. The other part of that is when we start incorporating that stuff into our curricula, which, from what I understand, to answer the first part of your question, the superintendents, the school admins, they're a part of it. They develop it. There's stuff that comes down from the state that they have to look at. As a committee, yeah, we can look at it. I would try anybody to dare me to say I can't look at it. That's not gonna happen, because the first thing would be, why are you hiding it? What do you mean you can't even look at it? Or if it's that good, why aren't we sharing it from the top of the flagpole? Why are we hiding it? So we really got to work on that a little bit as a country a lot. Hasn't been, from what I've seen, and I try to keep an eye on that. I wouldn't say that we have a significant or detrimental problem here in the Mendon-Upton School District, but I understand your point. We don't want it to get there either. So I would definitely be the voice of keeping that stuff away for the best I could.
I have a question. How do you guys feel about?
I'm sorry, do you mind stating
Oh,
your
yeah.
name and address, please?
Yeah, Debbie below 36 State Street. Thank you. How do you feel about the curriculum being taught in school, within the high school? I'm not sure if the middle school is taught this way, but CNN being taught, the government CNN class being taught as a daily, putting the politics, where we all know that CNN's skewed. One way, Fox is skewed the other way. How do you guys feel about that? As far as, it's in the social study classes, the government classes.
That one's a tough. I'll go first this time. Sure. And the fact that I believe you're correct, Debbie, CNN as well as any news organization can't be trusted to give us unabated facts without opinion or spin. That's the shame of the whole system. And, I certainly wouldn't want just a learning to come out of CNN. One of the things that I've seen as an example is the way questions are based. And this is not the time or place for calling out names, saying something like that, but I've been given examples as we go along. And I have another example. When you ask a question, it's an opinionated question, and you're asking for a yes or no answer. You cannot follow that question with two statements on how something good or bad it is, and just leave it at that. You either have to ask the question and let it go, or you got to be ready to put both sides behind And I've already seen questions that don't have both sides behind it. They're very leading questions. And in my opinion, are biased. And that's where this stuff starts from. And that's the kind of stuff that, wow, you see as parents, we have to identify and then address the best we can. So,
Because I think that we personally have to look into the curriculum. I don't know if that's given to us from the state. I think we have other options, but I personally think that as a parent, to be solved in the curriculum in the school system, it's towards everybody, not just a one-sided, where we're in a very liberal state.
Yeah, I
I
agree
would like
with
some more conservative family values. Matter of fact, I like a lot of stuff left out of the classroom.
you. I
And
agree.
I'd like, just, government history properly. I'm just curious where you guys stand. I would love to know where Jim Forkey stands and Matt Hagan, and who is the other person? And Kerry Lawrence, but unfortunately they couldn't come. But where do you stand?
I agree with you. My kids are in elementary school, so they're very young, so I'm not really aware of the curriculum in the high school and even the middle school, but if I'm elected, I want to be aware. It's hard for me to have a microscopic view of all things going on, and that's why we need parents to come to the school committee to say, hey, I'm not happy. And for me to say, hey, you're not happy, let's figure out how we can solve this. And these are the steps we need to take and approach the school committee to work with the superintendent to get change made. I personally don't get my information through CNN. I listen to unbiased podcasts to get my news. That's just me personally. And I know a lot of other people do that as well, but I agree with you. And if I was a parent of a high schooler, I don't think it would be too.
I have another question.
can I add?
Yes,
I just want to make sure that I'm not coming across wrong because I think our district has some great teachers. I really do.
agree.
I think we have,
absolutely.
I think we have strong teachers. I think we have strong admins. And sometimes, I don't want these things that we say to come out as critical. I mean, we have a different view, we have a different path, and we like ours, and we're gonna prove that is a better path than some of the teachings that you see, especially in places like CNN.
Right, so another thing I would like to know is, are you guys up for bringing transparency to the curriculum, to us parents? Because I know in the past, for me, my kids have been in the school system for a lot of years. My oldest is 25. It was very hard for me to get transparency on the curriculum, on many things, mainly the sex education. I was not able to get anything. It was ever given to me. I requested numerous times. And I believe now, I don't know where Mendon stands, but there's a big push on the sex ed right now with some inappropriate stuff. And I think it's really detrimental to the little kids. But I would love to know if you guys are gonna push for transparency for parents and taxpayers. My kids are no longer in the school system. My child is in private right now. But I think transparency for the younger, especially younger families. A lot of people aren't aware of what they're trying to put through. I think parents need to be made aware for their kids when they're put in kindergarten. Pronouns, not necessarily you're a girl or a boy, and there's your physical being. People may get offended, but I say the majority rules personally, but I want to know where you guys feel on that for transparency for everyone, including the people that might want that in the school system.
Right, I will absolutely push for transparency. One of the reasons I'm running for school committee is because I want to protect my children.
I will do everything in my power to provide transparency, and I'm not sure how all that works inside the scope. But I will figure it out and guarantee that, if you guys have questions, I'm not gonna last until you guys get answers. I really, that's the part that all right, whether we can make change or not, what you're looking for is a legitimate question and you deserve a legitimate answer. And if the question is, hey, what are they teaching? We should be able to say, hey, this is what we're teaching. And it shouldn't be hidden, it shouldn't be questioned.
Hey, one more question.
Can we just, hold on one second and address the folks on the Microsoft Teams, to just let some of you know that we know that your hands are raised and what we anticipate doing right now, if you don't mind just hanging on. We're gonna finish the questions in the room. There's not a lot of people here. So I don't anticipate this will take that long to get through the questions of the people right in front of me. And then we'll turn it over to to you folks. So I see somebody, Deb, I think it is it Deb Lane?
Yeah.
Hi, Deb. So we will get to you and everybody else on Microsoft Teams. So just hang on, okay? All right, thank you very much. And so where were we over here? Were you, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Special ed.
Okay.
I did have a child in the special ed program. There's not a lot of transparency there. I dealt with it all the way up to high school, to a senior in high school. And I know many people that their children are in the program, in the IEPs, 504 plans. Not much, no transparency there, and nobody's held accountable. I've been to many meetings to probably a whole school grade, from second grade, first grade to senior. That is something that I'm curious where you stand on that. I don't know if you guys have to deal with the special ed program, but there's definitely needs some help.
So when COVID started, another reason why I was a frustrated parent was because my middle child was in early intervention. And once the pandemic hit, we were just completely forgotten. And for that, like almost a whole year where, you know, kids were home from school and I had a newborn, I just felt like nobody cared. I felt like no one cared. So I'm on like the beginning of my journey into the IEP world. I support IEPs and I believe that every child has the right to an education. I unfortunately don't have any experience in that realm right now, but my kids are young and I'm open to learning as much as I can and doing whatever I can do for my children or your children. It's just hard.
Excellent question. And one that, up 30 days ago, I had really no experience in. The thing that has resonated, with me the most since I started this campaign is the IEP program. I have not gotten a whole lot of good feedback on what is going on right now. And there seems to be, because I haven't done the investigation myself, a lot of deficiencies, especially on the administration side. What I do know is I've read that 30-page state process 3 times. I understand why it can be confusing, why it's tough on everybody, it's tough on the managers, it's tough on the administrators. Of course, if we make a plan, we have to follow said plan. And it has to show the results. So I free people that seeing that and following it through. I will say, when parents tell me that they have to hire and pay advocates to look after their plans, that my heart goes out to you if you have to do that, because that's not the way it should be. And there's a disconnect. If that's the way it is, there's a disconnect. There's a gap in this that is a lot bigger than that. It's the schools, it's the state, it's everything that goes into that program. There's gaps that can be closed everywhere because it's that should never be. And I appreciate that question because yeah, that is one that, even in today, all the basic questions, the taxes, the diversity, the culture, that question has resonated with me. I'm not sure how my duties, if elected, help everybody make sure that we get there, but you can rest assured that I will figure it out and then push in the right places that we need to get these improvements, because right now, I feel through the stories I've heard, the whole process is broken. It really is.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Brendan Sherman, 16 Washington Street. Just had a quick question, changing gears. Regards to the budget. So I was looking over the fiscal year 2023 budget, and I noticed that a lot of the grants from COVID are expiring. It's going to leave a pretty big hole in the budget. I wonder if you have any creative ideas to deal with that.
Great question. So I've looked at the budget. It can be kind of confusing. There's a lot of line items and a lot of dollar amounts. So I can't really say that I'm extremely well versed in the budget. I haven't thought of any extra ideas for any grants because in the past, I feel like we haven't had any money extra left over. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer to your question, and I apologize for that, but Jim has any ideas?
No, yeah, like I'm gonna build off of what I said in the opening. I don't have the, make a very great question. And, that is concerning. And when I look at the budget, it's both sides, right? To your point, the funding. As well as where we're spending that. So when we have the lack of funding,
Yeah,
you have to get on the expense side. I don't have the creative answers to be exact for you, but I work in an atmosphere where you make budget. You don't get a choice. I can't go to somebody and say, yeah, we can do this, but we need more money. I just can't do that. So, I'll look at it and see where we can go, the best that we can. But until you get inside the buckets and so on the expense side, it's really tough to pinpoint where we can make up shortfalls from.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, so you guys can still feel free to ask questions, but I think right now we'll turn it over to the group online. And so I see Deb up there, right, Deb Lane? So
Sorry.
just state your name, identify yourself, and tell us where you live.
Deb, well, everybody knows by now, Deb Lane, 38 Vincent Road. And I think that was it, right, Deb?
Yes.
Okay. So before I ask my question, I did want to make a comment about the last question. For those of us who were around during the override push, oh God, it must have been 5 or 6 years ago, Lisa Liu, who's always very good about helping out the schools, had a meeting with Dr. Maruschek, and we were all at her house. And one of the big, one of his points was the business manager position was going to go from half-time to full-time because that was going to enable a lot more grant writing. And I don't know if that's happened. So that's something that a promise was made to the community, and it's something to consider and to look into. The other thing was, my question was more to you touched upon it a little bit, the transparency and the common sense. And I was definitely moved by your point there about being left behind during COVID. My daughter was in the Spanish immersion program, and is an asthmatic, and we didn't really know much in the beginning, so I kept her home. When they changed over from staying full remote to allowing kids to come back to school, we had to, I think it was like you're on your own group. I forget what the name of it was, but it was something like that. And I spoke to Dr. Muschek many times, and they did not support the Spanish immersion program at home. So my daughter, who had only learned in Spanish and spoke Spanish from kindergarten to 2nd grade, was thrown into an English speaking classroom and had to try to learn all on her own. And I couldn't help with the Spanish translation. And I spoke to him many times, and he could have cared less, seriously. And Hudson and Millis, who both had Spanish immersion programs, supported their children at home. So it was very interesting to me, and I'm still very frustrated by it, that while we've had money for COVID and we've had programs come up over the summertime the last 2 years, they haven't offered it to the Spanish kids who weren't able to get anything during that time. Um, so the so the so my point is, first of all, the lack of common sense in dealing with parents that could never get a straight answer. The fact that the children were divided up into 2 groups when they were at school, and 7 kids in each group in the Spanish immersion class. I could never understand why kids couldn't just dial in from home. But that common sense, like, it's just not addressed. It's just, this is the answer. Sorry, live with it. And the lack of transparency. There was a homework decision made somewhere along the line at the elementary school, and no, we weren't even told. We were just never. My daughter received homework in kindergarten, and that's it. Now, if they don't want to do that, and if they feel like they want to change things up, I think they need to talk to parents about that and make it voluntary if you want. But I like the homework for 2 reasons. Number one, I think practice is good. And number two, it gives me an idea of what she's doing in school. So if you just send the work home and you don't want to correct it, that's fine. I'll take care of it at home. But I'd like to know what's going on in the classroom that way. The iReady results, I get this number that means absolutely nothing to me, because I'm not shown what an average is in the classroom, what an average is at the school. We don't have access to the iReady data. I don't know why parents aren't allowed to see more of what this program offers. And the surveys are worded so strangely. There's no parental input. You drop your kid off at the front door and no one listens. It's been my experience although I had a very good conversation. Chelsea's going to middle school next year with the principal. She seems very good. I'm looking forward to that. But so I don't think it's at that level. I think it's at the administration level, higher up than that, at the school committee. I think it falls at their feet, where parents are really told, your opinion does not matter, and not in so many words, but in their actions. And so I'd really like just one core example of how you think you can get parents more involved and make them feel more part of the process of their child's education.
First this time.
So I'm with you, Deb. That's a great question, and you made some great points. And I too, as part of being a parent and asking questions and watching some of our committee meetings, feel the exact same way that you do. Obviously, as a committee, we can't dig into every single specific instance. We can't just dive into everything. We need the parents to bring it to light so we can bring it to light, and we can give you the answers that you deserve. It may not be the one, I may never be able to give you every answer that you like, but I will guarantee you it'll be well thought out, intelligent, and empathetic. So that much I can vouch.
I agree. I don't want to sound like a broken record saying that we need parent involvement, but we really do. And when they did showcase the iReady results at the school committee meeting, I was at that meeting, Jim was at that meeting, and there was like 2 or 3 other parents at that meeting. I don't know how many people were there virtually, but it would have been nice if there was more parents at the physical meeting. There was, you could speak at that meeting too if you wanted to, but there really wasn't that much parent involvement there, and it was kind of like sad to see that. But I would really push for parent involvement and engagement and really open the lines of communication, because right now it just feels like the parents are here and the school committee is over here when we're supposed to be working together. Because we work together and the teachers and the superintendent work together, and then we work with the superintendent to make things better. So if I'm elected, that will be my goal. I don't want to sit at the table and talk about, the Golden Apple Award when we could be talking about the very, no offense to the Golden Apple. Just think about it, whatever.
Can I build off? Derek made it.
Are you finished?
Could I just follow up to that
Just
one?
wanted to make sure. good roll.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I think
Okay,
that's-
Jim, go ahead. Yeah,
So yeah, I was online and I was at that meeting, and it was a good explanation about the iReady tests itself, and but there's no information that comes home to the parent saying the mean score in your classroom is 500. So that way you have a basis to base on whether your child is doing well or not. I just have this 3-digit number. I don't know what that means nothing.
do you mind if she
I
just
just
finishes
yeah,
to
go ahead.
tag it off?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're completely right. And when I went home to explain the test results to my husband, I didn't have anything to show him because no, it's not sent to parents. It's just at the meeting. And I believe maybe 1 or 2 school committee members asked questions, and 1 school committee member asked if we could get that individual data sent to the parents. And they were like, oh yeah, I guess so. But like, what would you do with it? But it would be good to know so we could gauge our children, their progress. I totally agree.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Dara made some great points, all right, because we're all stakeholders in this and everybody has a pillar. And we have to break down the silos. The committee is siloed from the admins and the teachers, and from the parents feel siloed from the schools. We gotta break it down and all work together. We deserve full transparency on these tests, not only to see how we're doing, to compare, us against others, to see, where we stand, but not just that. Are we satisfied with, oh yeah, we're somewhere in the middle of the pack? I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm not satisfied with that one. Where do we stand and what is our goal? Develop the test score that we need, something reasonable, and then let's put a plan together on how we're gonna achieve that goal. So it takes all parties together. So yeah, that's my feeling. Of course, all this stuff should be published. I don't know how we go about doing that or what the final rules are of making that happen, but I could tell you the one sure way for me to figure out is tell me I can't. Because as soon as you tell me I can't do something, it's gonna be, oh, really? Okay. We'll see.
I know some kids like that.
Yeah,
Do you know?
I've got a bunch of kids myself.
Do you know if there's anyone else up there with a hand up?
So far, no.
So far, no. Okay, so to address the online group, if anyone has a question, now would be the time to raise your hand and we'll come find you.
Or they could just type in chat as well.
Or you can type in chat a question.
Deb's just.
We good? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, she's.
I think we're good up there. So in this room, does anyone else have anything at all you would like? Now is the time. We have them sitting right here. Let's go over here first.
Diane Duncan, 15 Wood Drive. So the topic that I hear coming up over and over again, I am super familiar with. It's how to get people in the room, how to get people virtually, how to get that feedback, like Deb Lane's feedback regarding Spanish immersion, IEPs, like all of that feedback is fantastic. We have, I think, 16 people online and about 14 people here tonight, so for a total of 30 for a very important meeting.
I agree.
So I guess what I would love to know, bearing in mind, if you are elected, you are both volunteers in this community. What are you going to do different to get representation? I've been to 1 million school committee meetings with no one, with very few people in the audience, be on staff and administration, prior to being able to Zoom in or Teams in. So what types of things can you do? Can you bring to the community to allow our feedback to make it into the ears of the people that matter?
Good question.
This is a great question. How do we get people to care? I don't know. I don't know. I care, that's why I'm here. I care about my kids and I care about your kids, and that's why I'm here. I just think trying to put it out there, and I know you know because you run the We Care Misco and you put it out there. I see it all over Facebook. I came to the meeting because I care too. But it's just putting it in front of people's faces and putting it in front of people's faces. I don't know. I don't know. Do we send flyers home with the kids? There's a school committee meeting tonight to remind the parents. We put it in their little green folder so the parents get it. Just lots of in your face not advertising, but awareness, essentially. Look, we need to care. Let's make some moves, but we need everyone's involvement. I care. I'm trying to get involved. I will try to get my friends involved, my kids' parents' friends involved. I will do the best I can, but I until I really get into the position and see where the holes are, then I don't know, but I'm trying.
I can appreciate, not having been in there yet and not knowing exactly why, because having been in there and not being able to capture anybody's attention despite personal Facebook posts and different methods of trying to get people engaged and involved in something that is incredibly important. But the other piece of it is you would both be volunteers. And I can't tell you how many baseball games and soccer games I have personally missed because that's when people tend to approach you. So I feel like there's got to be some sort of conduit that can help parent feedback, community feedback, get to the school committee in a way that doesn't take up more of your time, even if you have to read the responses, but like, there's gotta be something better out there.
Do we poll parents? What are the barriers? Is it the time?
Can I just interject because
Sure.
our kids are the same?
Yes.
So my first time ever to a school committee, very ashamed. This is my first year ever to a school committee. I've recorded you at baseball.
So wait, I mean that in a negative way.
No, I know
either,
you're not.
because I
I
have
know you're not
always
saying
been-
it, but I'm gonna tell you why I think some people don't want to get involved. Because if you deal directly with the school system, you get burned. I got burned several times with the school system. Mr. Maru's a chaperone. He blatantly lied to me. So I had a sour feeling. I didn't want to go to a school committee meeting. I felt like no one really gave a shit about what I said because the superintendent didn't even care. So the frustration is at the top.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what this new person is like, this new woman is like, but I do know something that's not over at Nipmuc that I'm good. And it's detrimental to these children, and I don't think anyone cares. So the only way you're gonna get people in is if someone will listen.
So we're gonna
maybe
give,
you can
we're
get
gonna
the
give,
superintendent in and say, the superintendent will say, I wanna listen, because she seems like she's got a heart. I watched her and she seemed like a lovely lady,
Maureen is great.
and so did the woman at NISCO. Who's the
Jen.
She seems great, because NISCO was a sour grape for years, so be happy with those different.
so we're gonna give Jim a chance, and thank you, Debbie. We're gonna give Jim a chance to, speak to Diane's question.
So, Diane, I appreciate the question too. And we have to encourage involvement. And on our side, as part of the committee, I would say we have to be accessible. All right, and obviously, we're not doing it for fortune, volunteer position. I'm certainly not doing it for fame. I think I might have more haters than likers, but I'm doing it because I believe in the community that I'm retiring, making it the best that it can be. So I know on a personal level, I would promise accessibility. I know on a committee level, I would push for accessibility. And then again, I'd like to go back to feeding off of Deb's question. Not everything has an answer that everybody is going to be palatable. So, but, you have to make sure that, the answer, if it's not the one that they're looking for, again, is intelligent, thought out, empathetic, respond with reasoning on why we have that. We have that answer. There's a lot of tough questions. This is not an easy role on either side. It's not an easy role for us. It's not an easy role for the superintendents and the admins and the teachers either. They all have tough jobs too. And we've all got to respect that and work together to get the parents more involved.
Thank you.
So I think, Lonnie, did we have a hand raised
Yep.
from Liana?
Yeah, Deb, Deb's still up. Deb, did you already ask the question?
Oh, she's good, okay, so, let's bring up Liana.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Liana, state your name and, where you live, please, and go ahead and ask your question.
Liana Moore, right down the road from the two Debs at 45 Vincent Road. Yeah, and
Active community.
Yeah. Yeah, and I couldn't figure out how to unraise my hand, so I'll just make my comment anyway. It's a little, it was tied to the previous comment about that Diane started the chain on about parent involvement. And Diane and I both were on the school committee at one point together, and so we are totally sympathetic to the challenge you have in front of you in getting parent involvement. And there, I will have to say, as a school committee member, there was nothing worse than discussing an important topic, having nobody show up, and then having people approach me and tell me how pissed off they were about a decision. And I said, well, you missed your opportunity to kind of say that out loud, and sorry. Again, not that I minded being approached outside of the school committee members, but it was a little frustrating. I do have to say though, as a parent on the other side of that table, it seems to me that there has been a shift in the atmosphere at these school committee meetings where it feels that parents don't have the right to challenge or ask questions or to hold the school accountable or the teachers accountable for policies in place that we may not approve it. At the end of the day, we hold the purse strings, right? Like we say we like what you're doing by approving the budget. We say we don't like what you're doing by not approving the budget. And so therefore there should be that aspect of transparency for even the stuff that I know the school committee in the past has said, well, we don't have control over the curriculum. Well, you do, maybe not direct to say, hey, you should teach this on this day at this level, but there always is that aspect of control. And so as you're considering things to do to get parents involved, I think it might take you a little time to turn the tide and show parents that their time in attending these meetings will be valued, not just because you agree with everything a parent says, because these are very polarizing issues. They are very tough issues. And as I've always said, when I was on the school committee, we're all intelligent people, and intelligent people could look at things differently and come to different conclusions and come to things, different conclusions as to what's in the best interest of our parents. But when you're a parent and you're made to feel like you don't even have the right to participate in your child's education or decisions that are made on it, it becomes very off-putting, and you decide that it's not worth your time. You're just gonna, lambaste everybody on Facebook instead, which is not of value either. So, just two specific things that you might want to look at initially. The public comment period 10 minutes prior to a meeting, that is of no value for the public to speak before they've even heard the school committee raise issues and discuss them. There should clearly be a process where the public can engage after, communications between the school committee and that transparency of what they've reviewed, but before a decision's made, right? Because if it's after a decision's made, that's not helpful either. And then the other thing is I don't know about everybody else, I'm so tired of taking a survey to find out that, ooh, the majority said X, and then to find out that the school committee decided to do what the minority wanted anyway, with no justification. Again, if there was other things involved, but it almost feels like they do these surveys in the hopes that it will support their position, and then when it doesn't support their position, they still just go ahead and ignore the survey results anyway. So there's got to be a way to make those surveys and parents' voices more valuable than what I feel they are today.
Yes.
So to what Leon is saying, I think you guys have somewhat, you're in consensus with that.
Oh,
which
yeah,
is a- I
absolutely.
didn't hear a question in there, so. But I heard the statement and it said to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if you two want to take a quick second to just kind of, if you have anything to add to what she said, but we are getting towards the end of our Q&A right now. And I still know Lisa has a question and I know you.
That she
I think
was-
Are you
she hit-
sure? Okay.
Yeah, she hit what I wanted to say
Okay,
too.
well, so you killed
Yeah.
two birds with one stone up there. So I don't know if either one of you want to comment off of what Liana said. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that was very well said, and she sounds like me a couple months ago, back in February, when the school committee was voting on the masks. It was very frustrating to me to be part of the majority, when voting, where 80% or above of parents were neutral about removing masks, and the school committee made their decision based on, personal opinion, fear, and not on data and facts. And I will never make a policy based on fear or my personal bias or my personal agenda. I will listen to the parents and I will make my policy based on the data and the facts and not on outliers either.
Was great point, both by Dara and Yanni. Liana, and I felt the same way too. And I gotta tell you, it was extremely disappointing to see a group of people pretty much unilaterally take the stand that they did, because if you recall that call, the superintendent said, we're okay with Desi. Desi said, take it off. The school nurse said, take it off. There was the Mendon Board of Health said, take it off. 80% of the parents said either, the nurse. 80% of the parents said either they had no opinion or it can come off. That to me is a unilateral decision, because they just went up against everything. And when I look at that, they say, not all good decisions are popular and not all popular decisions are good. But that one was unpopular and bad. It's the worst of both worlds.
Dara has a comment.
I personally supported Desi's 228 mask policy change. I just want to throw that out there. Another poem I had was different school committee members citing different health agencies to fit their own narrative. Listen, and I know that this school committee job is hard and they had a tough decision. But when you have two experts on and you know that Desi is going to lift their mask mandate and they consult infectious disease physicians, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and they also have other medical experts that help them make that decision. And they have a lot more money than we probably do to do that, to ignore that, the parents, and then to just pick and choose to listen to the CDC or the APA or anything like that. That was probably one of the main reasons why I decided to run for school committee, because there's no structure. It was, well, I think this and, I think that. And someone said, like, I'm not comfortable with that, but it wasn't about the school committee member being comfortable in making the policy change. It's about the things that we talked about, the parents, the experts, the polling and all that. And they just went in the complete opposite direction. And that was something that I wasn't comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with that. So I'll make my decisions based on that.
Thank you. Okay, we have, is that Bridget? Is that what that says up
Yeah.
there? So, yeah, Lonnie, can you bring Bridget?
Yeah, go ahead, Bridget. She had mentioned it was already asked.
Sorry, it's Bridget Garland, 88 Northbridge. So basically, Liana, she basically said what I was going to say and expressed the frustration in the fact that, yes, it sounds like, Jim and Dara already kind of answered that, but I guess another question I could ask in reference to that, when you do a parent survey and the experts are recommending one thing, I guess, how are you going to or I guess what measures will you take, knowing that you're joining a school committee where a lot of those members are still in it? You know, what measures will you take, I guess, to kind of make sure that your voice is heard and that those four or whoever are left, kind of don't, I'm not really asking it very well, but I think you get my point.
Yeah,
I understand the question.
So is there a question? You understand
I
the question.
understand.
I mean, I guess,
I missed the question.
I guess one example is when, you know, I think Eric Brown was actually trying to be reasonable and he said, well, I'm making a motion, then, what's his name, basically just said, well, I already made the motion, blah, 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 but that didn't really make any sense. So you're saying that one person has a say in a board of 6 people? So I guess what will you guys bring to the table when you come in to try to make sure that those kind of authoritarian measures aren't taken? That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, Bridget. Structurally, obviously, you stated the point, you know. Say I get elected, I'm gonna be 1 out of 6. I may be the only person with that position. In defending that position, it is my duty to leave everything on the table, including truth and facts, to lobby the other people to over our cause so we can get the answer that I'm positioning for. Yes, I hope I didn't. In my 7 English class after this answer, but yeah, you know, to take a high level thing, okay, the masks. Okay, take them off. Why should we take them off? First, we gotta make sure that as a committee, we're following the rules and bringing motion to the tables properly. And 2, if I'm the only one in that position, it's my job to say, okay, this is why the mask should come off. And I gotta bring the truths, I gotta bring the facts, and I gotta be hard for us. But, you know, no guarantees that one kid went out 6, the other 5, so.
Did you want to add?
The school committee members, unfortunately, can't really do anything independently. We have to work together. And I just think that showing up to meetings like this and coming to meet the candidates and really figuring out who's running for your school committee and just caring about that will take a long time, but getting the right people in the right seats. Yes.
So we're getting past our hour of questions and I know it's like a little warm in here now and it's getting a little late. And it is a Tuesday night. So Lonnie, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna explain the, I can maybe see if I can cool it down here, but I was just gonna explain the, just as far as how the votes go. How
Okay,
that vote,
so-
if you
so-
wanted to hear it, that's all.
No, do we want to hear it? We always want to hear you talk. So just, if you don't mind, we all know who you are, but please, for the record.
Lonnie Tenio, 60C North End.
Thank you.
Men. As far as the vote goes in any committee or any board, it is any member can make a motion. And then it has to be seconded to carry on to the next. So I don't quite recall that. I think I was driving the car trying to listen to it, but a motion was made. If it was seconded, then it needs to be discussed and then voted up or down. And that's the proper forum, the proper form. If a motion was made and not seconded, anybody else can then make another motion. The maker of the motion can also withdraw that motion. So there's those things just to keep. I'm not sure it was out of form or out of order how they did it that it was done that night. But that's just a simple fact.
Thanks for explaining that useful information. Appreciate
Can I
it.
ask you a quick question? Do you know, like, so where there's just 6 members, who is the tiebreaker?
So
The superintendent?
So do you mind if I have you guys discuss that after? So the latter part of this meeting right now, the sort of before the conclusion, is to spend a few minutes with the candidates. We've given them 10 candidates to meet in small groups or whatever. Is this still something, it's on the agenda, still something we want to do? Or how are we? I'm feeling you guys out. I mean, we
People
can,
have more questions, I
Right.
guess, would be.
Right.
pardon?
Do people have more questions, especially online?
Well, the folks online, I don't know how that would work with meeting in a group,
Continue asking.
but
Right, that's what
is that okay with both of
Yeah.
you? So what you're saying then is, let's spend the next few minutes as we get towards wrapping it up. If anybody else has any more questions, and do it in an open forum as opposed to splitting off and meeting the candidates privately. Is that what we're saying? Is that agreeable? Agreeable? Okay, so, all right, then, let's continue with our questions, and this goes for online as well. So, wow, you guys have a lot of good things tonight. So are there any more questions online? Anybody in the room?
Brittany Monja at 7 Whitfield Road. Is there basically anything that we haven't asked, any points that you guys want to touch on that you might have left out in your intro or as it we've spoken, anything else you want to say or get out there?
So, that's a great question. I'm surprised it's taken so long to get that one. Because of all the questions I've gotten, I gotta tell you, the first one is yet to be, why are you doing this? So, I think I got a lot of those answers, out there already. I got some more stuff that I prepared for the closing argument, but you guys have done, very well in hitting the topics.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I have a couple of things to say in my closing, but.
Okay.
I think so, I wanted to say.
Okay, perfect.
Deb's got a question.
Deb,
Hey,
hi.
Deb Lane, 38 Vincent Road. So, given the fact that there are somewhat 30 people here, do either of you have any thoughts about how you would like us to support you if you were elected? How we could, help you get more people involved or whatever? How do you see the community helping you?
I think we answered that already. We gotta figure out a way to get you and everybody else engaged and involved and making sure that, we're all, an agreed upon path moving forward as best we can. I think that's the biggest thing I would look for, and I'm not trying to put all the onus back on the parents. But yeah, we need to figure out a way to get, the groups that are out there more involved, and if we need more groups, maybe that's the answer too. We gotta get the parents more involved some way, somehow. All I can do is give you I'll be accessible as much as I can. And I will feed any information for any question that you ask me. It may not be right away. I might get the question Monday morning. You may not hear from me till Wednesday afternoon or Thursday, but I'll find answers. If not, I'll let you know that I'm working on it. The key is going to be getting the parents more involved.
Yeah, I agree. I think doing things like this, making school committee members or people running for the school committee more accessible. Because I know, I believe when Eric was running and he was just a write-in and he, probably didn't do anything like this because it was in the middle of a pandemic, but we have the opportunity to get to know our school committee members and say, hey, I want that person to be on the board, or I don't really align with that person. I don't think I want to vote for that person. It's good that we had Mendon candidate night tonight, the one on May 10th, and the Upton one. So you can really see who these people are running and not just read a quick little Facebook post and go with that and then vote for them. Or just look at a sign you're driving by. Just making us more accessible and, just so you can ask questions and get the answers and see who you align with most.
I don't know, done already, but it's just an idea in terms of the participation. If there's any way, because obviously we know that the schools have our emails, making sure that that the date of that meeting is laid out enough in advance. And obviously, I know we get that calendar at the beginning of the year where there's all the dates and whatnot, but It's also great to have a friendly reminder to say, hey, guess what? This Friday, this is school committee. This is the agenda.
Right.
This is
Right.
the
Right.
agenda.
Right.
Gets out well enough in advance so that people can, ask questions of the people who we voted for. To basically voice our thoughts or whatnot, and perhaps based upon some of the questions that you guys get, would then generate a survey that would ideally be listened to.
No, I agree. Do we send an email and put a direct link so you don't have to go to a Google Doc that takes 5 minutes to load to get the link to the meeting? And no, I totally agree. It needs to be more in your face.
And one thing that I would argue is that, so I run my department of meetings at my hospital. And, when you ask people to basically drive from all over, the state or at least eastern Massachusetts to come to a hospital for a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, okay, we're done by 8 o'clock in the morning and then gonna drive halfway across the city back to an operating room. It's hard as hell, and then they don't show up. The one thing that certainly has happened with the pandemic is that Zoom has certainly made participation in my meetings a lot easier. You can attend the meeting in your sweatpants. But I do think that having hybrid meetings would be ideal, so that just like tonight, people who can't make it because, kids at a baseball game or whatnot, but you can still participate and get involved would be a huge means by which to get further participation.
Thank you. Lonnie, there was a comment up there. I don't know who it was by, but that mentions about the mendon.gov page and signing up for the agendas, which I myself was going to mention because the committees I've been on, we've always posted an agenda on the Mendon government town website. Cultural council, all the committees have to have an agenda. I don't know about the school though, so can someone read what that says
Yeah.
up there?
It says, are people aware that they can go to the Mendon Gov page and sign up for agendas and dates for all meetings that can be emailed to them? And I don't know if people are aware, but you can do that. And you can sign up for just individual meetings that you want to take care of, or you can sign up for all of them.
So do we know if the school,
I'm just looking.
school committee posts an agenda?
Yes, they do. They do.
Okay, so
They
I've
do,
gotten
but it's
it
not
there.
always timely though.
No, it's not always.
It's just not
timely.
an email direct link that's easy to follow.
Yeah,
I think,
it
again,
takes a little.
it's all about making things easier as a general rule, especially in like where we're going in a bazillion different
Okay.
directions.
Can we have him, I'm gonna have him address what,
Yeah, so I believe the agendas do show up on the Mendon Gov website. I also want to caveat that with, I'm not sure that they show up on the website because I've had a hard time, and I always use the website to grab an agenda if it's not a meeting that's in my calendar, right? So don't hold me that. I will find out and get an answer out to whoever I can. However, if it needs to be, wherever it needs to be posted, it needs to be posted within 48 hours. So when we say timely, it's got to be posted somewhere, wherever that somewhere is.
okay,
And I believe they should be, if they are not, and again, I can't answer that right off the top of my head, they should be on Upton's website as well as the MUR's.
thank you. Dean,
Are the school committee meetings posted the dates at the schools themselves? I mean, I used to drop my kids off and there were a lot of parents dropping off. Are they actually on the school grounds saying there's a school committee meeting at such and such a date? I mean,
Or like a sign.
Yeah.
It's really.
you can't have that for the school committee?
I don't know.
That seems
I
illogical.
think you can probably have the announcement. There's just not a good way to do it. We don't have digital signs and.
Well, I was just saying.
Just like a
I mean,
sidewalk sign.
Yeah, right. I mean, when I used to drop off my kids at BVT and there were cars going left and right with parents dropping off kids. If you want to get the word out, seems like an inexpensive way too.
Well, and it's a great idea to create engagement that we're
A
talking
little
about too.
plastic with the letters.
I mean, we have it for everything, Nipmuc football,
Right.
everything else, sign up for soccer, baseball, et cetera. Why not have one for the school committee?
Bonnie, did you?
No,
have
I
a
don't.
question?
Deb has a question.
Deb has a question.
No, I think you answered it.
Okay. All right. So I think at this point, we're gonna, I think at this point, we're gonna turn it over to the two of you to conclude your comments tonight unless there's any more questions. One last shot at questions. So why don't we do that if you're ready? And I think we'll start with Jara. And so go right ahead.
Okay, so in closing, admittedly, I don't have any school committee experience. The most important thing to emphasize is knowing what you don't know. I know that I'll have to be informed on all aspects of the position, including school district policy manual, the budget, collective bargaining agreements, and any other materials that explain the objectives of our committee. And I'm looking forward to being guided and mentored by the current school committee members. And I hope everyone comes to the Mendon Meet the Candidate night on May 10th. I'll be there too. And please consider voting for me on the 17th.
So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot of government experience, actually none. So this is the first time I'm going into it, but, you know, I've run teams my whole life. I've had buildings that were under my management. I've had teams. Have had to dabble in union agreements, especially when you have unionized workforces. So while I may not know all the details right now, I do know how the structure works. Okay. When I look at our committee as it sits now, and again, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just giving you the optic of what I see from the outside looking in. I see diversity, a lack of thought diversity. Seems like we got 6 people that are all marching in one direction, and it doesn't matter what a whole lot of people say to them. I see a group that looks for the path of least resistance. I see a group that likes to follow more than it leads. And I see a group that lacks ambition. And if you believe the same way that I do, then I'm the guy that's going to help turn all that around and change it for us. Appreciate it.
So again, we really appreciate both of you being here. It's very unfortunate, especially after listening to some really important issues and topics and conversation tonight, that there's 3 candidates that are not here and that you're not able to hear from them. But we do appreciate both of you being here. We appreciate the folks that came in tonight to meet the candidates. Don't know if you've ever met them before. It's my first time, and it's been a pleasure to meet both of you. I'm very impressed, and I thank you for your time doing this. And thank you to everybody online tuning in and listening to our important meet and greet tonight down here at the Mendon Police Station conference room. So with that, I guess our meeting is adjourned. Thanks again, everybody, for attending, and good luck to both of you.